Mickey Mouse is a cornerstone of the Walt Disney Empire. From the release of Disney's Steamboat Willie in 1928, through the founding of Disneyland, and into Disney's reign as a multimedia juggernaut today, Mickey Mouse is both the origin of Disney's success and its eternal figurehead. And while that means that Mickey has often been more symbol than character, it makes it all the more exciting and shocking that Mickey Mouse was given new life for more than a decade in maybe the most artistically creative, energetic, strange, and absolutely demented show that Disney has ever made. And that comes in the form of artist Paul Rudish's 120 shorts, made under the titles of Mickey Mouse and the Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse, as well as several different seasonal specials starring Mickey. And I know what you're thinking. Mickey shorts? Really? That's what we're talking about today? Well, first of all, you can go to hell. Second, I have a deep and abiding love for Mickey due to playing Kingdom Hearts at a formative age. And third, Rudish's shorts are flat out incredible, even if you don't care about these characters. With the series lasting in various forms from 2013 through 2023, it was a decade where Mickey felt more alive than he had for generations. And that's because Rudish's Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse is hilarious, dark, and filled with love for not just Mickey Mouse and his world, but the entire history of Disney. It's an unpredictable and totally unique take on the House of Mouse that deserves more love. So come with me as we explore the history of this wonderful world and the most demented and delightful Mickey Mouse. Our story begins, like so many of my videos, with me taking this opportunity to talk about media history that's only tangentially related to the subject that you're all waiting for, and forcing you to listen to something you don't really care about while waiting for the main subject to begin. It's part of the appeal of my channel, folks. In this case, it's the history of Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse made his first appearance on November 18, 1928, with the premiere of Steamboat Willie, created by Walt Disney and Iwerks. And while Disney had made several shorts beforehand, it was Steamboat Willie and the character of Mickey that truly helped launch Disney cartoons, which eventually morphed into Walt Disney Animation Studios. The rest is, of course, history. And as the shorts turned into feature-length films, Mickey evolved, going from weird little go-getter voiced by Walt himself and shaped by Iwerks, who temporarily quit due to ongoing fights with Disney, to multiple voice actors and designs, such as the pie-eyed Mickey of the late 20s and early 30s, and the softer and sweeter Fred Moore redesign that has largely been the character's default look, to Mickey being a supporting part in features like Fantasia and Fun and Fancy Free. And while I think there are a lot of fantastic Mickey shorts from this period that show just as much artistic and storytelling craft as the much more flashy Looney Tunes, in particular I love the band concert and Delayed Date, it wasn't long until the mouse was synonymous with Disney as a corporation, becoming less of a character and more of a figurehead. Still, there were plenty of stories keeping Mickey Mouse alive, including quite a few video games, lots of straight-to-video movies and specials, and many different TV shows. Still, I can't help but feel like most of these lacked a memorable approach that would help Mickey feel like a distinct character beyond being a chipper hero with a look and voice you instantly recognize. His supporting cast, not beholden to being so closely connected to the corporation, got to be in much more memorable work. Donald, the Nephews, and the Only Good Billionaire got 2 versions of DuckTales. Goofy got Goof Troop and a Goofy movie. But Mickey was stuck with totally fine but forgettable stuff like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, kinda just letting Mickey coast as a branding for kids. But all that was about to change. Enter Paul Rudish. By the time Rudish came on board for a new approach to Mickey, he was already a 20-year animation veteran, working as a storyboard artist, illustrator, and writer on shows like Dexter's Laboratory, The Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack, Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, Tron Uprising, and honestly, just a whole bunch of stuff I'd classify as extremely my shit. According to Rudish, he was brought into Disney to come up with new ideas surrounding the company's heritage characters, and very quickly grew an interest in 20s and 30s Mickey shorts. At the same time, once and future Disney CEO Bob Iger wanted a new Mickey show to be put into production, which led him to very quickly put Rudish in charge, who set about pushing against Disney's preconceived notions about the character. "I wanted our cartoons to be for the older audiences," said Rudish. "The company did studies years ago basically proving that Mickey was for babies. And that made a lot of sense given that there weren't any programs featuring him, apart from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse for Disney Junior, that were for older kids. Our hope was to be able to create something to make it feel like we took on the work that Walt and Ub left off. There was no conscious decision to make Mickey more relevant and contemporary, to make it feel like SpongeBob comedy or style. We knew that we couldn't make 1930s cartoons, but we knew we could take what we loved about those cartoons and that slapstick humor and Mickey finding himself getting out of sticky situations and bring them into our time. That type of funny seems to have transcended generations, so we thought it might apply to our cartoons as well." Regarding his influences, Rudish has cited the early Mickey cartoons from the 1920s and 30s, obviously, but also a mix of work from Mary Blair, Disney concept artist behind Alice in Wonderland, It's a Small World, and more. And you can see her hyper-colored and exaggerated work in the fantasy worlds here. Walt Paraguay, a colorist whose modernist art on the backgrounds of 101 Dalmatians is one of my favorite styles in any movie ever made, and gave him a lot of trouble with old Walt. And anime for tone and style, with Rudish saying, "The formula has always been, we love the early Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 20s and 30s. We want to capture that kind of vibe, that kind of zaniness, that kind of surreal pantomime and physical humor. But we didn't want to copy or replicate a cartoon from 1932. We wanted to stop off from those sensibilities. Then, with the natural quality of being a modern artist, use all the tools we've learned along the way. And reverence towards the old stuff will feel new, not by design, but because we are new." It's kind of almost too simple, but it's going to take on its own vibe and its own personality just because we are a team of modern artists working in the modern age, with all the new tools and tricks at our disposal. And I think it's that unique blend that is the secret to the success of these shorts. The first time you see one, you are immediately struck by the classic approach to the art here, which uses a lot of flat shapes, thick lines, and bright colors, with inspirations from cartoons made nearly a century ago. Then you keep watching, and you're smacked over the head with the modern tone, speed, and humor of it all. With the average short in the initial run being only 3.5 minutes, these stories absolutely blaze by, moving from story setup to escalating action to insane climax, and down into fast resolution as quickly as possible. They're actually shorter than the average Mickey cartoon of years gone by, which would usually be between 6 and 8 minutes. But the frantic pace is really part of this whole appeal. There's an interesting evolution to these shorts, especially over the 5 seasons of the initial Mickey Mouse series. The first season pretty consistently sticks to keeping the stories pretty simple and light on dialogue. Usually the conflict revolves around a race against time or a daily chore gone terribly wrong. The fun is in seeing how fast everything can escalate in just a few minutes, and while that approach will always be how these stories are told, they slowly get stranger and more complicated. Eventually, the team would let the runtimes expand a little, with some hitting the double length of 7 minutes, with a whole lot more dialogue and complexity in plot, which became the norm for Wonderful World. And finally, these hit 22 minutes for the seasonal specials, which were a mix of anthologies and single stories. And Rudish has such a clear and present hand in everything here. He isn't just the executive producer and supervising director of every episode, but Rudish has writing credits on nearly every short, as well as a few as the storyboard artist. Alongside him, the main team behind the majority of the Mickey Mouse shorts were head writer Derek Bachman, full-time directors Dave Wasson, Alonso Ramirez, and Clay Morrow, art director Joseph Holt, and composer Christopher Willis. The process behind creating each of the shorts is a fascinating blend of loose ideas and constant honing, with each season starting by putting the team in a room together and spitballing every single idea, situation, and gag they think could make for a strong short, then passing off the general ideas to Bachman, who honed them into finished scripts and passed them on to the directors and animators for each episode one by one, going back into storyboarding for more gags and tightening up the runtime, creating an assembly line of concepts into finalized cartoons that really keep that unpredictable energy from their origins. As far far as the animation style, each character is given a pretty simplified design built out of easily recognizable shapes, which makes them look classic at first glance. But the actual animation employs a ton of squash and stretch, breaking them down, sometimes literally, and employing huge emotions, super fast lines, and hyper-colored worlds. It's so extreme that the team can get away with gags that would be gross or even disturbing if done in a more realistic context, but instead make this into a surreal world where anything is possible. There are certain recurring story ideas you can also find in all the old cartoons. A new job gone wrong, a date gone wrong, a contest that's way harder than it first seems, rivals trying to make our gang miserable, a special trip, you guessed it, gone wrong. These are reconfigured over and over throughout the show, with some being pretty simple and some taking on completely insane new approaches. And all the classic Disney characters are here, along with several different side characters that have been attached to them for decades. And while they still have their recognizable looks and personalities, Rudish and company use a patchwork of influences to make these characters simultaneously fresh and familiar. Mickey, voiced by Chris Diamantopoulos and making a big break from regular voice actor Brett Iwan, and bringing a raggedly stressed high pitch,
Minnie, the truth is, I hated that sweater. I really hated it. The claustrophobia, the chafing, the infections,
is, in a word, codependent. No, really, there's a whole episode where we find out it's impossible for him to say no. And Mickey's near-psychotic need to please other people is often the impetus for each story spinning madly out of control. The harder a challenge is, the more he thinks someone will be hurt by his actions. The harder he pushes until everything breaks, including his own patience. Using the pie-eyed look with the classic shorts and shoes, he's timeless but specific. Minnie, voiced by longtime voice actress Russi Taylor, and then Caitlin Robrock after her passing, is a lot like a female version of Mickey, which is why they're perfect for each other. A lot like her classic version, she's a true romantic, often swept off her feet and oblivious to reality, but also determined to make other people happy, no matter the cost to her. Here, the big design addition is her flower hat from Mickey's rival, instead of her polka dot bow. Donald, voiced by Tony Anselmo, also the voice of the character for decades, is a jerk, prone to outbursts, and is the ultimate footstool of life, with everything bad by default somehow magnetized to him. Little touches like how he is not really a sailor, he just wears that outfit because Daisy likes a man in uniform, show him as willing to do anything to make people like him, but he's also a boiling cyst of a friend. Design-wise, he's the classic look with buttons and the red bow tie from the comics. Goofy, with his longtime voice by Bill Farmer, is a strong wind away from being homeless, with his jaundiced eyes and poor hygiene turning the character's penchant for self-destruction into a lifetime of poor health and life circumstances. Throw in touches like the voiceover from his how-to foray into being George Geef, and it feels like decades of being Goofy have finally caught up to his middle-aged body, now scruffy and with a little gut. And Daisy, Tress MacNeille, is self-obsessed and a control freak, with her relationship with Donald constantly falling apart and on the mend, only to fall apart again. Sporting a pink design and cowboy boots alongside some sunglasses. The ways each of these characters bounce off each other is familiar, but the fallout of their conflicts feels a little sharper, a little darker, but still informed by a good heart. Thankfully, despite Mickey's status as being the major symbol of Disney, the higher-ups in the studio gave very few guidelines, the major one being that the show needed to feel contemporary and set in the modern world. And while Rudish would throw out a random episode set in the past or in a fantasy world here and there, these shorts really do operate in a strange sort of modern world with classic aesthetics. However, Rudish also cited the surreal nature of the classic shorts made by Walt Disney and Ub Iwerks, where the boundaries of reality really didn't matter. In this modern series, every episode essentially works as a reset. There's no real continuity regarding setting, relationships, location, job, or dynamics, so the team can have massive flexibility in their stories as long as the characters act like themselves. This leads to fantasy stories like Wish Upon a Coin and sci-fi like Spacewalkies, as well as what I find to be one of the most charming and artistically energizing recurring pieces, the international stories. Across the 5 seasons of the original series, 16 different shorts are set in different countries around the world, with Mickey, Minnie, and the gang being natives of other countries and having an adventure that intersects with that culture. What I find really lovely is that these shorts all have their characters speaking the native language of whatever country they might be in, with everything from French to Mandarin to Hindi being spoken without subtitles, with regional Disney offices around the world helping the team make sure to get the culture and customs just right. What keeps these stories so consistently surprising is that you can never really guess whether they're going to end on a truly sweet note or a shocking moment of black comedy, and you really can never guess which way it's going to go based on the rest of the short that came before. Whether it's a 3-minute or a 7-minute short, so many of these stories will build up a layer of empathy for whichever character is in the spotlight, hoping they can make it out of a sticky situation and save the day. And unsurprisingly, they almost always do. But every so often, the story will double back around on itself and hit them with an even worse fate, only to immediately cut to credits.
Unfortunately, you now have to wear these wheelie carts until your shattered legs heal.
Well, hey, this isn't so bad. At least we're in it together. Come on, race to home. Woo!
It's super dark, but it's also so extreme and wild that I've often burst out laughing at the punchline of these episodes. Maybe Mickey and Minnie will get swallowed by Goofy for a romantic dinner in his gut, or Donald will be on his deathbed due to the magic of Christmas, or Mickey will waste his entire life trying to finish a 3-legged race without cheating, or Mickey will have to fight through a massive allergy attack to make Minnie happy, or Minnie and Mickey will spend an entire episode as essentially horror villains as Donald and Daisy try to escape from their double date. These jokes and physical comedy are so funny on their own, but the light bit of shock that they're actually doing all this with Mickey Mouse makes it even better. And I honestly can't tell you how many times I've been amazed during my rewatch of the entire production. And it's not just me saying it. The series won a ton of awards, including multiple Primetime Emmy and Annie Awards for every aspect of its production. If there's any weaknesses to these shorts, it's that some of them can feel like they're treading too similar of ground to previous episodes. Oh, Mickey and Minnie are going on a date and something goes wrong, forcing Mickey into action while Minnie is oblivious to what's happening. Goofy is falling apart, often literally, and Donald and Mickey need to fix whatever is going increasingly wrong. One of Mickey's rivals has stolen something important to him, and he has to get it back. Of course, these are plot points that have been reused for decades, so it's not surprising that they're also used here. Still, they're fun, but when an episode is forgettable, it sticks out because so much of this show will burn itself into your brain. One of the most consistently fun and surprising aspects of Rudish's shorts is that they're always in conversation with the larger world and legacy of Disney. And while it's not every episode, which would make it too predictable, Mickey's stories are constantly slamming into a pre-existing piece of Disney media. Rudish is also clearly a huge fan of Disneyland and Disney World, and not just in their current state either. Mickey and friends will be in the midst of some insane adventure when the journey suddenly shifts into a Disney park ride of old. Some episodes, like House of Tomorrow's play on the old Monsanto Tomorrowland House of the Future, the Pirates of the Caribbean tribute in Untold Treasures, and the Tiki Room riff of The Enchanting Hut, use rides as the basis for the entire story. But it's just as fun when bygone attractions like the Rainbow Caverns, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, or the Casey Jr. trains show up as brief punchlines in the shorts. The initial Mickey Shorts run would come to a close in 2019 after 5 seasons, 94 episodes, and 2 specials, with the Scariest Story Ever Halloween special being an especially twisted and demented little story of spooky tale one-upsmanship.
Chewie had become her next spy!
But it wouldn't be long until the Wonderful World continuation series premiered in 2020 for Disney+, and alongside it came even more integration with the larger history of Disney. Rudish specifically wanted each of the episodes to feel as if they could take place in one of the lands of Disneyland or Disney World, but wouldn't always call attention to it with a short. And honestly, I think it's genius, and all the little touches of other characters, worlds, and items from Disney history truly make Mickey feel like a crucial part of this massive world. It's a piece of fun for Disney diehards, and it really plays like a loving tribute to the history, memorabilia, and ephemera of the entire company that no Mickey cartoon has really ever intersected with before. Guy like me can't get enough of this stuff. For a little while, it seemed like Rudish's Mickey had a new lease on life with Disney+, and following the first season, Disney released a second season composed of 4 seasonal specials, all titled The Wonderful Insert Season of Mickey Mouse, beginning with winter and released across 2022. And these 4 specials morph from being made up of 3 totally unrelated shorts in winter, through the Rashomon style of summer, and finally into one long story with autumn. And I think they're fun. The season-specific settings and stories really help freshen them up a bit, but I think these are just a little less effective than the previous shorts. My favorite of the 4 is probably Spring, but in any case, I think that maybe not quite being at your height after more than 100 episodes in a decade is totally understandable. But we'll never know if things could have stayed fresh with a new approach, because it wasn't long until Disney announced the end of this era with the release of one final short, Steamboat Willie, on July 28, 2023, celebrating 95 years of Mickey Mouse and satirizing the coming entry of Steamboat Willie into the public domain. And man, this thing is great. While cleaning out the attic, Mickey finds boxes full of his old clothes, films, and memories. But when he plays an old film reel of Steamboat Mickey, the reel snaps and sends out hundreds of old Mickeys to wreak havoc. The short plays as a tribute to the entirety of Mickey's life in animation, with Rudish and the team using clips, archival footage, and dance cycles from the most famous to most obscure work in the Mouse's history to track the many different stages and art styles that have defined his century of stories. I'm very proud of all the work we've done. I'm satisfied with the finished products. I'm very satisfied with the relationships that were founded and evolved with my team. But I wouldn't say satisfied in that I'm done and that's a chapter I can move away from. I mean, I can if it is. But if there should be a want for more, I know that there is more that we could do, and we'd be happy to do it. And one of the best things is bringing in new talent and sparking new ideas and getting fresh takes from fresh artists. Once these artists are allowed into Mickey's sandbox, they go bananas, and we get great stuff. But at the time of making this video, there hasn't been any other announcement regarding Rudish's involvement in more cartoons. But I can always hope for more. Thankfully, the end of Rudish's shorts is not the end of his legacy or imprint on the character. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, a new trackless dark ride, was opened in Walt Disney World in 2020 and Disneyland in 2023. That's right, I've tricked you into hearing me talk about theme park ride history. And man, I love this ride. Using the art style and tone of Rudish's shorts, the ride starts as a walk through a movie theater premiere of Mickey and Minnie's new movie, with a showcase of many so-called props from Mickey's past films, only for Goofy's park train to lose control and explode the movie screen, with guests entering the cartoon world and going for a train ride. Of course, in the spirit of Rudish's stories, things quickly go out of control. With the train cars separating, Mickey and Minnie sucked into ever-worsening disasters, and the fates of the riders on the line. It's a really wild, dizzying ride, and while its so-called 2.5D technology is kinda prone to breaking down, like most new hyper-detailed and delicate Disney rides, I'm looking at you, Rise of the Resistance, breaking down for 2 hours after I was in line for 50 minutes. It's even better when you're a fan of Rudish's work. And I think it's really saying something about what he's made, that this is the first ever Mickey Mouse ride created by Disney after so many years of aborted attempts. It's a testament to Rudish's combination of hyper-specific art style, exaggerated comedy, and love of Disney history that this feels like classic Mickey Mouse while still being one of a kind. And of course, it features a banger of an earworm tune, Nothing Can Stop Us Now, sung by Diamantopoulos and Russi Taylor in her final performance as Minnie Mouse, and the last in a line of hundreds of performances across decades. Afterward, Disney also opened the Aqua Mouse and Aqua Duck slides on multiple Disney cruise lines, featuring another new Rudish short for theming. And it makes me really happy to see that despite being so offbeat and crazy, Rudish's take on Mickey and Disney's most beloved character hasn't been sidelined or forcefully forgotten. Yes, Mickey has basically gone back to his bland and very corporate look in most other Disney media that has been made in the years since, as well as anything that was made alongside these shorts when they were originally coming out. But as long as people have access to these cartoons and keep watching them, I think that these shorts are only going to continue gaining a greater and greater reputation, and will be seen as some of the best Disney animation in years, and something that was made during a time when this company was putting out very bland and very forgettable work. Will there be another memorable take on Mickey Mouse to carry the torch of this version of the icon? At the moment, there isn't much beyond the very basic Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, although I do like the different stop-motion specials made for the holidays in recent years. But whether there'll be a brand new version of Mickey with a really distinct take, or if it's back to being the company mascot, I'll always hold a special place for Paul Rudish and this completely insane, unforgettable take on Mickey Mouse. Thanks for watching today's video, and it's finally time to get back to talking about a little animation. If you've been following my channel, you probably know that I love talking about cartoons. So whenever an idea for a topic strikes me, I jump on it pretty fast. And earlier this year, I took another trip back to Disneyland and went on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway again. And this time it had been after rewatching a lot of Rudish's cartoons. And so it was a really big treat for me, and I realized that I really wanted to talk about these shorts. They are an absolute delight, they're completely demented, and they are full of so much imagination and joy that it's really infectious. And in preparing for this video, I rewatched or watched for the first time, if I'd skipped some of them, every single short and every single special made by Rudish and his team. And I really enjoyed that. Obviously, if you're at the end of this video, you can tell that I'm a big fan. And if you've never seen these shorts and are a fan of animation, and even if you're not a fan of Mickey, Minnie, Donald, and the whole gang, you should really check these out, because they are amazing. Funny, weird, wild, unpredictable, and filled with fantastic artwork. Already being a fan of Mickey and the history of Disney, it's a really big treat for me. As of now, there aren't any plans for more of these Mickey shorts beyond whatever works with the theme park rides or any of the cruise line rides, but I do love that Rudish's take is still sort of the de facto take on Mickey and the gang when it comes to new additions to these parks. It's just so unique and stylish, and Chris Diamantopoulos' take on Mickey is totally insane, and I love that Mickey finally has a really specific character once again because of these shorts. I would love more Mickey from Rudish, but also I would just like anything else by the guy. Currently, there's not a lot of news on what he's doing next, but I will be very excited for whatever that might be. I'd love to hear your take on this Mickey Mouse, some of your favorite shorts from this line, and other animation that you'd like for me to cover. Whether that's a single short, a series, or an artist, obviously, I love making these videos. As always, a huge thank you to my members and patrons for their continued support, and if you'd like to be a member or patron, it's only $2 a month for early access to every video and exclusive reviews. And until next time, I hope that you're taking care of yourselves and watching a cartoon you've never seen before.